This is crazy. I swear, Andrew Claudio has something against me. Well, what should we talk about tonight, folks? The Knicks lose by the score of 79-73. March Madness. 79-73 was the final. That is hard to believe. The Knicks shot 26 of 80 from the floor. That's 33%. They shot 9 of 40 from 3. That's 23%. They shot 12 for 16 from the line, and they had 19 turnovers. And all of that gets you 73 total points. Andrew Claudio leaves me the real doozies. I hope you guys will. I'm going to keep this pretty short. I don't think there's a ton to really talk about. I'm not going to get all super worked up. I put out my stupid grades. People are really worked up. You got to have a little perspective. This team has no offensive players. And every time a good coach comes to town, like a top-tier coach, whether it be Steve Kerr and the Warriors, whether it be Nick Nurse and the Sixers, they actually act like the Knicks have no offensive players other than Jalen Brunson. And so they throw length on him, and they have 3 guys in the paint every time he tries to get in there. And the ball ends up in Precious Achiuwa's hands, and it ends up in Josh Hart's hands over and over again, and those guys don't want to shoot threes. Or when they trap the ball goes to Jericho Sims, or it goes to Isaiah Hartenstein. Those guys don't want to shoot the ball. And if help comes from the corners, well, who does it get kicked to? Precious Achiuwa, Josh Hart. And how many times did we see the ball just get pinged back to Jalen Brunson, even when Jalen had already created an advantage for them? Right? Offensive basketball is about once an advantage is created, all of the four other guys on the floor need to maintain or increase that advantage until you get an open shot. The Knicks lose those advantages after Jalen creates them. I'm not going to get on here and crush Jalen Brunson, who was bad tonight. He was bad tonight on offense, although in, I would say, extenuating circumstances. He was bad on defense. I thought he was worse on defense than he was on offense. But, he's banged up, and he has to do everything for this team offensively. Every advantage creation moment is his. Everyone. Nobody else on this team, unless it's a fast break, can create an advantage. You want me to get on here and kill Jalen Brunson? I'm not going to do it. You want me to kill Dante DiVincenzo because he hasn't shot the ball as well and airballed a wide open one that would have cut it to 2 or 3, I forget. He's dribbling more than he should ever dribble at an NBA game. The turnovers are bad. Josh Hart's turnovers are bad, but they're all coming on these they have the ball too much. They're complementary guys. They can't be your second and third option. Ultimately, they played great defense tonight. The Sixers didn't have much going either. How many games are you going to lose when you give up less than 80 in the NBA? It's crazy. So, Brunson wasn't good defensively, but everybody else played their butts off defensively. Oubre got it going a little bit, but, he's a decent offensive player. I don't know. I'm having trouble getting too worked up about this. By the way, when Isaiah Hartenstein was on the floor, the Knicks were plus 10 tonight. And he can't play more than 25 minutes right now. That hurts. Talk about extenuating circumstances like this. They're down to their 3rd and 4th string center for a lot of the game. And I like Jericho Sims. I thought Jericho was okay tonight. But Hartenstein dominated it in portions on the boards and on defense. And he had to go back to the locker room again to get checked out. You want me to get super angry at Josh Hart and Precious Achiuwa for not being willing shooters? That's who Josh Hart is, man. That's who he is. And he shot it better since the All-Star break. He made a big one late in this game that he had an inkling maybe they could win this game. But we know the Josh Hart issue. And by the way, the roster now, as constructed, allows you to stay away from him late in games if you are having that issue, which they couldn't as well last year. when healthy. But like right now, again, like you're down to your bare bones. Deuce McBride had a bad night. I'm not gonna get mad. Deuce McBride was great against Orlando. He had a great steal in this game. You're asking him to run a second unit that he's not capable of doing yet. He doesn't dribble the ball well enough. He doesn't see the floor well enough. I'm not gonna kill Deuce McBride. Now you want me to kill the Piston guys? I didn't think Bogdanovic was terrible tonight. I thought maybe they should have closed with him just because he couldn't create anything. At least you get a little bit of spacing with him out there. But like, there are moments where he's so weak on the ball on offense, the decision making on offense, the inability to break pressure, and then defensively, what he's not giving you. So like, I personally probably would have stayed with Bogey and maybe taken out Hart, but Hart ended up making the 3 late. I don't know. People want me to get really mad at Tom Thibodeau tonight. He's got no options, guys. He's trying to figure it out. He has stayed with Bogey in the past late in the game to try to open things up. That didn't work. You have to choose right now between defense and shooting because Burks and Bogey have just Burks can't give you the offense either right now. That's the other problem. So like, I've talked about what the front office did or didn't do at the deadline. I think they needed more ball handling. They didn't get it. What was available? What could they have gotten? I don't know. But this is what you're dealing with, and like they've tread water, and they're hanging in the best they can. And nice thing tonight is that all the Eastern Conference foes in the standings lost too, so they didn't lose any ground. Cleveland lost, Miami lost, Indiana won. I saw, but they beat Orlando, so Orlando lost. Like. They're treading water until the cavalry comes back, and you just have to kind of accept that. Like, I hope you guys come with questions and we can talk about this game and like what you can and can't do, what they could have done better. But like, you come in with a smart defensive strategy and good defensive players against this team, you can hold them. And if DiVincenzo's not going to shoot the lights out from 3 and Brunson's going to have a bad shooting night from 3, they cannot generate offense. There's nothing there. There's no offensive ability on the floor. So look, that's ultimately my takeaway. I'm just, it sucks to watch it. Like, and I thought, rewatching the Orlando game, it was like, I think the miracle is more that they've eked out enough games to tread water than it is that these results happen once in a while. Like, the Orlando performance was pretty special. They held the team under 80 tonight. And I understand that Philadelphia also is missing a ton of guys. I would say the talent's not too far away. Like, the Sixers have some good players. They have a lot of length on the wings. I thought Batum and Oubre did a really good job with Brunson. I thought Paul Reed was really good inside. Like, it was 2 zombie teams going at each other and fighting to the death. They didn't win this one. Get another chance Tuesday night. By the way, it's hard to win 2 in a back-to-back. I think the Knicks will win Tuesday night. Even if Maxey plays, I think the Knicks will win Tuesday night, but we'll see. Usually these kinds of situations are a split. I would take that. That would be fine with me. We'll see if OG gets it back in the lineup. That would be wonderful. But yeah, I'm just like, they're gutting it out. They've kept every game close during this stretch, and they've eked out enough to tread water. They're still treading water. Get a win Tuesday night prior to the West Coast trip. Hopefully you get guys back and you can go on a run. But like, this group has done its job considering the circumstances. And tonight doesn't change that for me, even though it was a brutal game to watch, a brutal game to have to post game. But like, here we are. And I am glad to be able to vent it out with all of you. I hope at least 10 people are watching. I wouldn't blame anybody for moving on with their nights. But if you're with me, I appreciate it. We got Kev on the 1s and 2s tonight because of the KFS. We got a KFS live. There was a suite tonight. They were all hanging out in the suite to watch another brutal performance. Last year, we were live in MSG with KFS, and we lost to Oklahoma City by like 75 points. So we're on a good roll there. My post-game streak remains hilarious. Although we don't lose every time, it's always super ugly. But in the end, glad to answer any questions, talk it out with any of you. Looking forward to it. So with that lovely introduction, let's get to some chats. Let's do it. MDHDZ, what's up, buddy? He says, yuck, let's not do it again. Well, I have bad news for you. We're going to do it again on Tuesday. And my guess is that it's a grinded out game. Like that's what they've been. That's what these games have all been. It's tough. It's brutal. It's not particularly entertaining all the time. But that's what the team has to do right now to try to eke out wins. Andrew just informed me that KFS is now 0-6 at regular season live watch parties. That is remarkable. That's remarkable. Yeah, so they're going to do it again Tuesday night. And until they get some guys back, this is what it's going to look like sometimes. It just is. Thanks, buddy. Deadwords604, thank you for the contribution, my friend. Thanks for hanging out. He says, we don't play with our food. Well, they just knocked over the entire buffet table. Absolutely embarrassing showing against the team we have to face again Tuesday. Please tell me OG is back next game. Look, the Knicks can't call anybody food with the talent that they have on the floor right now. That's like, it's just not, you can't. Who have the Knicks blown out since Randall and OG went down? The Pistons game was super close. They actually should have lost that game. Like, who have they been so clearly so much better than throughout this stretch? Like, I guess Orlando Friday night, but like, it wasn't pretty. Like, their offense didn't get going. Like, there's no food. There's no food right now. Like, the Knicks are a good team, but the 4 or 5 of their best players are out. Like, no team is good with that kind of absence. And like the fact that they're like 2 or 3 games under 500 since that happened, if anything, it's impressive. And Jalen Brunson's missed a bunch of the games too. And Hartenstein's not 100%, and Brunson's not 100%. So, there's no food. And I reject, it was embarrassing at times tonight because like it was so damn ugly, but like I'm not embarrassed with the effort. I wouldn't call it an embarrassing showing. Like it was an embarrassing offensive display. You have guys who freaking can't shoot. It's crazy. Who don't want to shoot, can't shoot. Like sucks. But like, there's no playing with our food. It's just every night is both. Every night's the Knicks are starving and they're fighting for scraps. They don't have the luxury of playing with their food. They're just trying to get to the next day. Like that's where they're at. Trying to get a morsel of bread down the esophagus. It's a grind. It's been a grind for a month. For the players, the fans, the coaches, everybody. It's tough, but like I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too lenient on these guys, but like I just watched Friday night's game. Like that was pretty awesome. Like they're doing their best. It's just there's a limited talent pool out there. It sucks, but it is what it is. Anyway, thanks, Edwards. I appreciate the chat. Zach Horowitz says, and thank you, Zach. He says, this loss means nothing. It's fine. 20-point win Tuesday. Nothing means nothing. And nothing means everything. That's like that is my basketball philosophy. Nothing means nothing. There's what to learn from this. To me, the most important thing to learn from this is like if you want an effective Jalen Brunson, the guys who catch the ball need to go make plays. And I understand the fear of shooting. I understand they're not shooters. I understand some of them aren't drivers. Precious Achiuwa, Josh Hart, they just gotta shoot it. They gotta shoot it. They gotta drive into space. It can't be a pitch back to Brunson after he creates an advantage. Brunson can't handle that. It's too much. So like if I'm in the film room and I'm pulling plays over and over again of like Precious catching at the foul line, Precious catching wide open on the wing, and like pivoting into a DHO with Josh Hart instead of just driving the gap or shooting. And by the way, the Knicks rebound a gazillion % of their shots. The worst thing they can do is not get a shot up. The turnovers, I guarantee you, what Tibbs will point to in the press conference, first thing is the turnovers. Because they're not going to shoot well, but guess what? Even when they don't shoot well, they rebound 35, 40% of their misses. So you got to get shots on goal and then crash the net. It's old hockey philosophy. Especially with the talent the Knicks are lacking now, get shots on goal and go crash the net. And try like hell to manufacture enough points. I don't think it means nothing. There's always something to learn from something like this. I don't think they're going to win by 20 on Tuesday. It's hard for this team to win by 20 right now. But to your point, this loss does not mean everything. And some of the reactions I was getting on Twitter were like crazy to me. Like, chill. Like it's an extreme number, 73 points. Kind of hard to imagine. But it's not actually crazy if you think about what's going on and who they're missing. Thanks, Zach. Daniel Carlisto. What's going on, Daniel? Daniel says, well, that sucked. This is a game where you play Bojan and Burks more. GTFO with that precious Hart lineup tonight. Who are you worried about defending? Yeah. I hear you. I don't know how you can justify playing Burks more. Like, I'm sorry. I've always loved Alec Burks, but he's been horrible. And it's not just the fact that he's not shooting well. It's that he seems to have one turnover a game that leads directly to a bucket. It's that his defense and rebounding is bad. And they gave up, you can't divorce the offense from the defense because they have to choose right now. So if Burks and Bogey are in there, they don't just give up 79 points. I mean, how good was Precious defensively tonight? What did Tobias Harris do? Tobias Harris can score, man. Like Precious was good. He was really good on the weak side and helped. Like they did hang around. A couple shots going in the fourth quarter. They're right there. It's like I get it. And personally, I would have stayed with Bogey down the stretch. Probably for Josh Hart, honestly, because he was horrible tonight offensively. But I'm just having a hard time getting too worked up about. He has to choose right now between offense and defense. It's a very bad place to be. Because Bogey's not good defensively. Burks hasn't been good defensively. Burks hasn't even been good offensively, and Bogey's been okay offensively. So, if Bogey was lighting it up, then I think he would have stayed with him. But, he hasn't been great, and he's turned the ball over, and he's struggled with pressure. And the Sixers pressured the hell out of the ball tonight. Give them a little bit of credit, too. Because we tend to do this thing where only the Knicks are the story of any particular game. The Sixers guarded well tonight. Tyrese Maxey out of the lineup, by the way, means they have more defenders. And, I know they're missing a lot of talent. I know they're missing an MVP. But they went out and they played. And they pressured the hell out of the ball. And they had a really good game plan. And they actually ignored the guys they should have ignored. And they made it really tough on Brunson. I don't know. I would have stayed with Bogey, so I'm not really disagreeing with you. I can't justify playing Alec Burks anymore that he's playing. And you say GTFO with that precious Hart lineup, but they were +4 with Achiuwa on the floor. Hart was -10, but the bench unit was Sims -18, Bogdanovic -12, McBride -8, Burks -7, and that was real. That those lineups could not generate crap. So I don't know. It's tough right now. It's just tough. Thanks, Daniel. Anthony Sixto. What's up, my good friend? Anthony says, candidate for worst game of the year league-wide. Sweet. That's why I'm so glad I got to do the post-game. It's fair, even with injuries, to be pissed about this one. Could be worse. Could have lost to the Wizards. Of course you could be pissed about it. I'm pissed about it. I was pissed watching it. I just think like most things in life, it's fans will be fans. Not you should get high and low. That's part of being a fan. That's what's fun about it. It's getting super invested and emotional. I'm not telling anyone how to react. I'm just in my analysis of it, because I view it as my job to analyze it while also rooting along with you guys. Try to put some perspective on what this was and wasn't, and what it means or doesn't. Of course we get pissed about it. It was terrible. Horrible. Just It is what it is right now. I just got to get through it. But yeah, this was might have been the worst game of the league of the year. At least there was some drama. Like, is this better than when it was like I think I saw OKC beat Memphis by some ungodly score tonight. 124-93. You know, like at least the game was somewhat close. There was drama in it, no matter the score. But it was rough. Yeah, it was tough to watch. Thanks, Anthony. Hush Z. What's up, Hush Zoo? Burks is a losing player. Just tragic what he is. Man, man, that hurts. It hurts. I don't know if I can refute it. What did he do tonight? I know he made 1 3. 1 for 3 from the field, 5 points, 1 rebound, turnover that led to a basket, -7. A couple defensive issues. I recall he let Buddy Hield shoot a 3 over him after a closeout, which is like all you have to do is force Buddy Hield to dribble, like obviously. So, man, it's hard for me to just like call him a losing player. He wasn't a losing player when he was in New York last time. I've talked about it a lot already since he's joined. I'm not really sure what to make of what's going on. The decision making is kind of crazy to me. Now, it is the case that when he's the lead decision maker, it's never been good. We saw that with the Knicks 2 years ago. And for whatever reason, the front office chose to go with a guy as a backup point guard, quote unquote, who we know isn't a great decision maker. He's much better playing off of other guys. So we're just in a pickle. And like, I love Deuce, and Deuce has been great. But how many times when Deuce starts a possession, does nothing happen until there's 6 seconds on the shot clock? Like, it happens a lot. It happened twice in my mind in a row in the second quarter, where he just like can't get you into an action, can't get you into a set, dribble, crossover, 6 seconds on the shot clock, someone's got to take a bad step back. It happens a lot. He can't really initiate your offense. Burks isn't very good at it. So when Brunson's off the floor, excuse me, when Brunson's off the floor, it's been a disaster. Predictably, it's been a disaster. Hoping OG comes back and can prop up that second unit a little bit. It hurts that Hartenstein can't play a full game load right now because he could technically prop up that second unit a little bit. But it's tough sledding, and he has been bad. He's been bad. He just hasn't been helpful since he's been here. It looked like he was on the way out of the rotation. I'm not sure once this team is healthy if he won't be out of the rotation. I could see Deuce getting the minutes as the 9th man over him once the team is whole. I don't know what else to say about it. Alec Burks has been very bad since he came over. Thank you, Hush. Sam Garcia. That was pathetic. LOL. Yeah, we got to laugh about it a little bit. It was kind of crazy while it was happening. And then for the game to end with like the Sixers trying to give it away with missed free throws and turnovers, and the Knicks just couldn't hold on to the ball. Like turnover after turnover, air ball after air ball. It was crazy. There was that possession where Josh Hart got 4 offensive rebounds in a row or something, and then promptly, and then they missed, and then Josh Hart just threw the ball to the Sixers, and they went the other way. It was comedic at times. It was a comedy of errors. It was disastrous offensive performance. And I think they've had bailouts before where DiVincenzo got hot or Brunson just goes nuclear, and neither of those things happened. With credit to the Sixers for not allowing it to happen. And Josh Hart couldn't make an open 3. It was just, there was nowhere to go. Thank you, Sam. It was pathetic, and it was funny. Mark Fabros. Mark says, please someone help me find the silver lining. It's easy. The silver lining is the rain that's going to fall in the form of OG Anunoby, who's definitely coming back. Julius Randle, who, I don't know, some reporting today didn't sound great from like Ian Begley about what Julius' status is, but theoretically, Julius coming back and Mitch coming back and putting this team back in its proper form and place, getting DiVincenzo back to just being a catch and shoot guy, getting Josh Hart to just being a spark plug off the bench, and getting Jalen Brunson's usage and work rate down to a manageable level. That's the silver lining. Like, they're coming back at some point, hopefully. And by the way, the other silver lining is we've tread water, despite, like, this is a lineup that now has the potential, this personnel has the potential to score 73 points in an NBA game. I would have said it was more likely to score 173 points in an NBA game than in regulation than 73 points. Like, if you would have asked me what was more likely this season, I would have said 173 points. So you now know this personnel is capable of going through a 48-minute NBA game and scoring 73 points. It's actually miraculous that they've won as many games as they've won. There's a silver lining. What are they, 2 games under 500 since the injuries to Randle and Anunoby? 3? I got to look at the game log, but something like that. That's silver lining. Other teams, by the way, look at Philadelphia's record since Embiid got hurt. And they had their second star for much of that too. Till recently, Maxey got hurt, but like, look at their record. It's much worse. So like, that's the silver lining. It's the perspective of like, we've won a bunch of games despite having no talent. And the Cavalry's coming back. And we can go beat this team on Tuesday and split a doubleheader, and it's fine. Totally fine. Totally reasonable and fair. Tuesday night's a big game, though. Thanks, Mark. Jesse M. Excuse me, guys. Got a little bit of a cough. Jesse says, was at the game with the KFS crew, and Josh Hart stuck out more to me than anyone else. He's literally unplayable when he's having a bad game. That's a very good observation, Jesse. And I hope you had a good time at the game despite the actual game. Yeah, he has an uncanny ability to have the ball a lot when he's struggling. Like, the ball finds him all the time. And when he's not willing to shoot it, and he's like, off the dribble game is very limited. So like, even when he drives a closeout, it's like there's not much. It's that pull up jumper and occasionally a kick out. He's turnover prone at times. He's a very flawed player, Josh Hart. And you're right that at times he's unplayable. Now, the good news about this roster now, and I don't even think he could have said this necessarily last year, because without OG, like, he as the big wing defender, because you couldn't really trust RJ in that role as much. It's like Josh Hart was super important to have on the floor. Now you have OG Anunoby. Like, and your closing lineup probably will, when things get tight, if Josh Hart's not playing well, because we saw in January that Josh Hart would close at the 2 occasionally. But like, you can always go Brunson, DiVincenzo, OG, Randle, center. So if he's unplayable, you don't play him. Whereas now, like, again, I personally would have benched him for Bogdanovic late. But like, I understand why Tibbs didn't. Josh Hart has been great of late. He's carried them in certain games. He's shot it better. He's a workhorse, and I understand why he's stuck with him, and he ended up making a big 3 again in the game. He's always going to give you the rebounding. So, yeah, it stuck out. But again, the good news is you don't have to play him if he's unplayable. But yeah, I agree. He stuck out like a sore thumb tonight with just like the ball finding him with 5-6 seconds left on the clock, and just couldn't make anything out of it. Thank you, Jesse. Alex, what's going on, Alex? Thanks for the contribution. Worst played and coached game of the season. Brunson looked hurt, and Tibbs ran baffling rotations. Every minute of Burks and Bogey play together is a disaster. Oh, it was the worst offensively played game for the Knicks of the season. They've played terrible defensive games, though. And this I thought was a very good defensive game overall. Because look, the Sixers have missing their two best guys. That doesn't mean they're going to score 79 points in a game. That's a crazy low amount of points. So if you don't want to play Burks and Bogey together, that means you have to start Bogey and bench Precious or Hart, which I don't think is crazy. That's reasonable. It happens to be that that starting lineup, even though it kind of looks bad at times, the numbers have supported it as like a pretty decent lineup. And I understand Tibbs thinking of like Bogey and Burks need to earn the playing time, and they have not done so. I've been more frustrated with Tibbs in other games this season more than tonight, because there have been times where Tibbs has flexibility at his disposal with the roster, both pre-Anunoby trade and in January, where they had depth and they had guys that they could employ, and Tibbs didn't and like stuck with Josh Hart over Grimes, over where guys he should be able to trust. I'm just having a hard time getting upset if he's not playing freaking Bojan Bogdanovic, who's he was the leading scorer for a god-awful Pistons team. He's 34 years old. He's struggled since he's been here. He's been okay. He's made some shots. He's missed a lot of shots. He's not a good defender. He's not a good rebounder. I don't know. When you have Jalen Brunson as your best player, it's the priority is sometimes defense around him, because you saw tonight, he's a weak point on defense. You add a second one, a third one, it gets really hard to guard. And again, they were in the game because of their defense. And I'll repeat it again. I would have stayed with Bogdanovic late. Do I agree that he should start, or that he can't? If he can't play with Burks, again, this goes to the trade, and you got those guys for depth and bench help. And if they can't play together, guess what? When the starters do come back, Bogey and Burks aren't starting. So if you can't play them as a bench unit, one of those guys is out of the rotation, which speaks to the fact that the trade wasn't very good. Those two guys just they don't complement each other. To your point, Alex, they're neither is a great defensive player. They're both less physical than the average Knick. Let's put it that way. And so that's a problem. And I think that's why ultimately you might see Burks out of the rotation and Deuce take his spot, because Deuce can give you some shooting and he also gives you the defense. So I wouldn't say worst coached game, and I would say worst offensively played game for sure by a long shot. Thanks, buddy. Alex is back. Also, tips. Next time you're up by over 20 in the fourth quarter, don't run your starters into the ground. Worried Hart's 40 minutes games are catching up. Yeah, look, I think that's a fair critique. I think, excuse me. He doesn't take out guys fast enough. I don't have much to add to that. He doesn't take his foot off the gas ever, and it forces guys to play a lot of minutes. And I think you can point to the Hartenstein injury as a classic overuse injury. And I think you can look at some of the nicks that Brunson has, and that it's hard to attribute it to the minutes, but yeah, he doesn't take his guys out quickly enough, and that sometimes adds to the wear and tear. I think that's fair. So it's a fair critique. I understand the perspective of no NBA lead is safe. Teams come back all the time. Threes obviously allow for really quick comebacks. So it's a fine line. I do think Tibbs crosses the line too often of keeping guys out there. Yeah. Thanks for both contributions, Alex. We appreciate it. Jessica Elsner, what's up, Jess? What's the win-loss ratio over the last 3 seasons on nights where there was a KFS get-together? Tonight was all about missed shots. They played hard, though. Well, according to Andrew, they're 0-6 in live games. So I would assume in the last 3 years, they're 0-3, which is crazy. It's just crazy. Yeah, they couldn't make shots. I thought they also became scared of taking shots, which is when you miss early and then you're scared to take late, it just empowers the defense to help off of those guys, clog up everything else. Brunson had nowhere to go. He was enveloped by their defense multiple times. You can think of a couple Euro steps where like 4 guys were in the paint around him. He's flinging himself trying to draw fouls. There's nothing there. And like when he did make the kickouts, the ball somehow found him again. Like it came back to him, even though like he drew 3 or 2 and passed the ball. Like someone has to be able to make a shot or take a shot. So it was about offensive ineffectiveness by the guys around Jalen. There are times where Jalen can bail you out because even when he's 1-on-3, he can score 30 points on a given night. He's that good. And tonight wasn't that kind of night for him. Again, some credit to Philadelphia because I thought they guarded him well. I think he's a little nicked up. Didn't look 100% healthy to me. But that's where we are. Thank you, Jessica. Jessica's back. Hopefully this game puts an end to the nonsense notion Precious could or should replace Randall and his offense. I like Precious, but he's no Randall. I don't know who's saying that, Jessica. I don't think anybody intelligent is saying that. Precious has been he's been the best innings eater you could have asked for. He's played power forward and center. He's been fantastic defensively for the most part. He's been a workhorse on the offensive glass. He is a pretty poor offensive player at this stage. He just is. He can't really shoot, and he's not that good a finisher inside. Not that athletic. Like, great length, has some tricks up his sleeve, but like is not a great finisher in the paint and can't shoot. That spells a not very good offensive player. You play him at the 4 next to a non-shooting center, this is what you're asking for. You play him at the 5, you have a better chance. You have a little bit of a better chance, but I actually think he's better defensively at the 4 than the 5. So that's why he's bounced around the league. Like, it's why he hasn't found a home yet. And as great as he's been for the Knicks in this specific role, the limitations are very real. And no, he is certainly not Julius Randle. He is nowhere close to Julius Randle. And whoever's saying that, you should mute. So that's that. Thanks, Jess. Hush Z, I don't get why Bogey is sitting. He's the only one making shots. They're literally leaving Precious on offense for a reason. Just baffling stuff. Yeah, again, I would have played Bogey down the stretch. I think it would have opened up the offense a little bit. He was 4 for 8 from the field. He was 2 for 4 from 3 tonight. So he was shooting it pretty well. Teams respect his jump shot. I know why he's sitting. Like, I get it. I do know why he's sitting, even if I disagree with the decision, because he does a lot of other things poorly. And those things that he does poorly are the things that Tibbs hates the most. And importantly, when you have Jalen Brunson as your best player, it is harder to play non-defenders. It just is. That is a fact. And you put that all together, and I understand the philosophy of like everyone has to be able to play defense around Jalen Brunson. Again, though, that being the case, why'd you make this move? Or at least, I know why they made the move, cap ramifications, the Fournier upgrade to Bogdanovic for a potential trade next year. They tried to get some depth. These guys might look better they will look better when the cavalry comes back. All fair. But the reason I was resistant to the trade when it was made is because philosophically, I don't think you should add bad defenders to Jalen Brunson-led teams. And not only that, when you have a coach who has his obvious preferences that you have empowered and want him to be your coach, so this is what's going to happen. Like, you have to know if you're a front office, if you're a coach, you have to know your personnel. If you're a front office, you have to know your personnel. If you're a front office, your personnel includes the coach. You have to know your coach's tendencies. And that's his. But again, I personally would have left Boogie out there, but I do understand why Tibbs opts to go the other way. Thank you, Hush. CC Kirby. Thanks for the contribution, CC. He says, frankly, I'm just thankful that the David Fizdale tribute game is now over so we can move on to Tuesday. Why is it a tribute to David Fizdale? I'm not even sure I get it. Why is this the David Fizdale tribute game? But when I think of David Fizdale, I think of like the big smile on his face when they were down like 50 to Milwaukee. Like no one was smiling tonight. Like they were miserable out there. Tibbs, I promise you, did not crack one smile that entire game. He was miserable, shaking his head, screaming. The classic Tibbs. Like I assume that you mean, and as Kev tells me, that's probably because we were so bad. Probably that's what you mean, and they were so bad. But the thing about the David Fizdale team is they would have been down 100 to 73, and they wouldn't have had a chance to win it at the end. So I'll defend Tibbs to that extent. Like this is not David Fizdale, although it was as ugly as some of the games that we watched David Fizdale coach. Yeah, but let's move on to Tuesday. Get a big win. Split the doubleheader. Feel okay about yourselves. Thanks, CZ. Alex. What's up, Alex? Alex says bench has been a tire fire with AB/Bogey. Cries in IQ. I don't know what cries in IQ means, but I assume you're referring to Emmanuel Quickly. Yeah. Here's the thing. When you traded RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly, you thought you were going to have OG Anunoby. You didn't think you were going to have Precious Achiuwa, Bogey, and Burks. But yeah. What ended up happening here is you traded all your ball handlers, including Malachi Flynn, who could at least run a pick and roll, and you got non-ball handlers back. Like Precious Achiuwa is obviously not, and OG was showing some signs of like actually being able to run some offense through him with the second unit. And if you have OG with the second unit, they protect Bogey and AB defensively, right? You put OG out there, he protects a lot of he covers up a lot of mistakes defensively and a lot of weaknesses. So yeah, it has been a tire fire. The bench has been awful. Tonight they could not generate any offense. Deuce is not that guy. Burks is not that guy. Bogey's not that guy. Like someone to create actual advantages. They don't have him. They don't have anyone who can run a real functional pick and roll. That hurts. So again, the hope is when you get guys back, you run your second unit through either OG or Randall or both. You can play DiVincenzo maybe with the second unit. Hart comes on as a spark plug with the second unit and gets the pace going. That's how you open these guys up, right? Because you have more support now. And you can actually create advantages for them instead of asking them to create the advantages. So that's where we are. Hoping, they need their talent back. They just need their talent back, and hopefully then you start to see the vision for this trade with those guys adding shooting and secondary playmaking off of the bench that can help you win games. So far, they haven't helped you win games. Thanks, Alex. Fargo Tufo, the legend. What's up, Fargo? Robin Williams' voice. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. We love you, Benji. Thanks. It's not my fault, or it's not his fault. That being said, your Hooper Burks needs to take a seat. He's not my Hooper. He's my favorite Hooper's favorite Hooper. He's your favorite Hooper's favorite Hooper. Or at least he used to be. Yeah, he might need to take a seat. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon until we get OG and Randall back. But the way he's playing, he deserves to be. I mean, he essentially was. He took a seat in the second half against Orlando. So we're not far off from Tibbs making him situational. And he deserves it. He's been terrible. What else am I going to say about Alec Burks? I love the guy. He's stunk. It does appear that getting the Detroit stink off of a guy is harder than I thought. Maybe Monty Williams ruined him. I don't know. But he stinks right now. And I'm hoping he comes out of it, but I'm not hopeful. Thank you, Fargo. Andrew Claudio says, oops. Screw you, Claudio. I don't want to talk to you. Leaving me with the worst games in the world. Fargo says, go away, Claudio. Amen. It's ridiculous already. Guy gives me the bottom of the barrel. This is what I get. Man. I don't have much to say. Not talking to Claudio, though. Ryan Huang. Thanks, Ryan. Ryan says, definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. Love KFS, but gotta stop these watch party meetups. The curse is real. I thought you were going to go with the Tibbs critique with that intro. That's a good curveball. Honestly, I'm not sure Andrew expects a different result. I think Andrew's sabotaging the season. Selfish interests. Let's get the KFS crew together. And let's throw Benji on the postgame. Sacrifice him to the crappy basketball gods. I think that's what's going on. Yep, KFS may have to start just getting together at people's houses or something. No more MSG. This is brutal. The OKC game last year might have been worse because they were down like 30 after 5 minutes. And OKC scored like 140-something points. Whereas tonight, both teams combined barely scored 140 points. Thanks, Ryan. Fargo says the blind pig could have shot better than NYK tonight. By the way, they had the blind pig play again, and Hartenstein passed up the Brunson backdoor for some reason. I wasn't sure why. A blind pig. What was with DiVincenzo missing that big three from the wing, wide open by like 6 feet? He seems tired to me. His legs aren't quite in it. Like we were riding his hot streak for a while. He was playing out of his mind. He was scoring 27, 28 points a night, right? And like that's obviously dried up. And you should have expected it to dry up. That's the thing. Like, that's not who he is. It's not who we're asking him to be in a normal situation. So, like, am I going to get mad at Dante DiVincenzo for shooting like crap tonight? No. Like, he's been ridiculously good for them. And he was a monster defensively in this game for portions. He was so disruptive. He just overextended. He'll be so happy when, like, Julius comes back. He just gets to catch and shoot from the corners again. Thank you, Fargo Tufo. Always appreciate you. Matt G. What does this say about NBA coaches that everyone hasn't trapped PNR and ignored Josh Hart and Precious Achiuwa? Quentin Grimes is better than Bojan Bogdanovic for this team coach. I'll take that one at a time. Yeah, it's frankly amazing to me that teams haven't been as aggressive as I'd expect them to be trapping. The teams that have been, the Lakers, the Warriors, and tonight, for sure, the ones that really stand up have been really effective in stopping this offense in its tracks. Every team's doing it to some extent, but there are definitely teams who are executing it much better than others. And I think that's actually been maybe the primary indicator of whether the Knicks can win a game is like, to what extent are they ignoring those guys? Now, by the way, when Josh Hart makes a couple of threes, that changes everything, right? Like, a lot of teams start ignoring him, and then he makes a couple, and then you start treating him a little differently, and then he can attack closeouts that actually matter. Like, part of it is like, even bad shooters can make shots sometimes. Josh has made a lot of shots since the All-Star break. So it's partially performance and shot making too. But there's definitely been, look, there are great coaches in the league, and there are average coaches in the league. Like Nick Nurse is a great coach, and Steve Kerr is a great coach. I don't think Darvin Ham is a great coach, but he's okay, and like he has really smart players who can execute a scheme. So, yeah, it is interesting, and it's also about having the personnel. And by the way, Orlando not having Jalen Suggs was a huge deal for them in terms of having the guy that they would stick on Brunson from the get-go. And they only gave up 98 points. It's not like the Knicks like went off offensively. I know the pace was super slow, so I think their offensive rating was pretty decent. But yeah, it's been surprising that teams aren't just helping off the strong side every time, especially off Precious, but even off Josh. And you saw it tonight. It's just like there's nowhere to go. And then as to the point of Quentin Grimes over Bojan, I don't necessarily disagree with you. again, I am someone who was not particularly high on the trade. I think I'm in the minority. And I was at the moment it happened. I said, I think they got a little slow and a little soft around JB. And QG did things for this team that were hard to replace. His point of attack defense, he is a good shooter. He doesn't need the ball, doesn't want the ball very much. I think there are reasons, off-court reasons. I think the relationship had kind of run its course, unfortunately, and we could speak about whose fault that is and why that happened. But I will also say that Quentin Grimes has, in fairness, has done nothing with the Pistons. I mean, he's been, other than that Knicks fourth quarter where he almost won them the game, he has done next to nothing. Now, I don't know, is he hurt right now? Because he's had some DMPs over his last 4 games. That's with Detroit. So, he hasn't been very good. The trade hasn't worked very well for either side at this point. Although, Detroit obviously is more invested in the future than the present. So, again, I've said this before, but like, people push back and say, like, wait until the guys come back and you'll see Burks and Bogey thrive. And I don't disagree with that. The reporting has been that part of the reason they made the deal was to get immediate help to get us through this stretch. And the reality is that other than the first Philly game where Bogey had a huge first half that I think was at least very much responsible for the win, they haven't really contributed to winning at all for this team. The games that they've won, like, they haven't contributed at all in some sense. And so, like, to that extent, to whatever extent it was that the trade was made to help us get through this stretch of games, the trade has been a failure so far. Obviously, things can change, and if they have big performances down the stretch of the season and into the playoffs, that changes. I'm not ruling that out. Furthermore, if Bogey is able to be turned into whatever next season, because Burks is a free agent, he's gone. But if Bogey is, if the dream comes to fruition and he's able to be turned for a star and like had more value than Fournier, and so you didn't have to throw in an extra pick, whatever it is, could also obviously contribute to the final say on this trade and how Grimes pans out. You can't necessarily have a conclusion about a trade until years after it's made, especially when it involves young players, or at least in this case, one young player. But I didn't love it for the reasons I think we're seeing it right now. But I'm keeping an open mind, and I think both guys can certainly play better. So I'm waiting for that. Thanks, Matt. Sam Garcia's dad. What's up, Sam Garcia's dad? Thanks, as always, for stepping in, Benji. It's really my pleasure. This GM doesn't make me feel good about getting back this game, sorry. Doesn't make me feel good about getting back Randall or OG when Philadelphia gets back Embiid Maxey. # no more KFS watch parties. This game doesn't make me feel good about getting back JR OG when Philadelphia gets. Oh, nah. It's an interesting point, Sam Garcia's dad. Can I just call you dad? That's weird. I wouldn't draw any conclusions to I think the game in January when the teams were healthy is much more of an indicator of how that game could go. Not to say that the Knicks would blow the Sixers out in a playoff series, but that game was more indicative of the matchup than this one was. Like it's a totally different game without your stars. It's a totally different game. And Tuesday night, even if Maxey plays, is not particularly indicative. I will say, here's what I will say. The Sixers have game planned well, and they do have length between Batum and Oubre and even Harris on mismatches sometimes to really bother Brunson. And if Embiid's there, like obviously in his drop coverage, Brunson might have a tough series against Philly. But if you have Randall and you have OG and you have options and he can catch the ball off ball a little bit more and it's totally a different series. So I think the one thing that it is worth monitoring how Philly deals with Brunson again on Tuesday, because that is relevant. But without the rest of the offensive threats the Knicks have potentially, it's I don't think there's a lot to learn from this matchup to a potential playoff series. But thank you, Sam Garcia's dad. Always appreciated. John Myhal. What's up, John? I definitely said that wrong. John Myhal. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. John says, I choose to blame this on daylight savings. Damn right. I'll tell you what. I blame my sore throat and general fatigue, the daylight savings. Because I don't even know. My kids are up an hour earlier, an hour later. I can't even keep track of like what it means, but like they were up and I was up. And I'm not feeling good. And this game didn't help. So daylight savings can go to hell. Can we just eliminate the freaking thing? It sucks. I think we can all agree that daylight savings sucks. Like what? Can we stop this madness? It's insane that we still do this. Like throw off our entire calendars because of like a prehistoric idea of like saving daylight. We have electricity, folks. Thanks, John. Tingus Pingus. What's up, Tingus Pingus? Do you think NYK has enough playoff offense when fully healthy? Bench is a disaster. Also, Nurse has JB's number, and I fear Spo and others will catch on. Do the Knicks have enough offense? Well, I guess it depends. Do they have enough playoff offense to like win the championship? I think that question depends on Julius Randle. If Julius Randle can be great in the playoffs or even very good in the playoffs, I think the answer is probably yes, because I think their defense will hold up. Not to say that I think they're likely to win the championship if that's the case, but like I think they have enough offense. And that's partially because, and I'll answer your second question with this. I don't believe that. Like Nurse, I think does a good job game planning for Brunson, but again, you add the other threats on the floor, that changes. And you're going to tell me that Spo's going to learn from Nurse? Like Spo had a whole playoff series last season to try to scheme for Brunson. With, by the way, limited shooting on the floor around Brunson, and Brunson did just fine. Brunson's going to be great in the playoffs. I just believe that. He's that good. I wouldn't read too much into this game. The personnel is ridiculous. It's an extreme situation. Yeah, if they ever get fully healthy and Julius looks like himself, A, and then actually plays well in the playoffs, B, they have a very good offense. The bench right now is a disaster. I'm concerned about the non-Brunson minutes even when healthy because I don't necessarily love. Again, they didn't add a second ball handler on that bench unit, so like it's gonna be Julius with the ball a lot or like OG actions. That concerns me. Like, and it's even though it'll only be 8 to 10 minutes a night in the playoffs, like those can lose you a game. Those 8 to 10 minutes can lose you a game. So they do have to sort that out. I hope the guys get back in time so that they can sort out a rotation that might work. It might involve adding. I could foresee like a whether it's Burks or Deuce. Let's say Burks right now. So like Burks, DiVincenzo. No, Burks, Hart, Bogey, Randall, Hartenstein. That maybe could generate enough offense, or OG and Hartenstein if you don't want Randall playing. Like they're gonna have to sort it out. It's not gonna be simple, and they're gonna have to tread water during those minutes without Brunson. But that's all they have to do is they have to tread water because I think the starting lineup is legit fantastic. So the point being, the bench has to be okay. It can't be a disaster to your point. And I still think the jury's out to an extent, even when healthy, if this bench can be good enough to get them where they want to go. Thank you, Tinkus Pingus, for the contribution and the chat. Appreciate it, man. Jesse M. There's only one explanation. Hashtag Claudio curse. Agreed. The guy shows up and they score 73 points. It's like it's remarkable. And again, last year, hold on, I got to look up that score. Thunder Knicks 2022. What was it, 23? I can't find the score now. But like last year, I think it was last year. I think it was last year that we went and they lost to the Thunder by like 100 million points. Well, maybe it was this November 13th game when it was 145, 135, but I feel like the Knicks kind of caught up in garbage time, but 145 points. So last year that we went, I want to lay this out for you. Last year, the Knicks gave up 145 points. This year, the Knicks scored 73. That is literally almost exactly half the points we scored in the second KFS watch party live edition. The Knicks scored half the points that they gave up to the Thunder last year's KFS. I mean, it's cursed. It's absolutely cursed. There's no other explanation. These numbers are extreme, and it's Claudio's fault. GMAC my butt. Thank you, Jesse. All right. Here we go. Alex is back. Alex, I really appreciate you hanging out and all the chats and contributions. Really, really very much appreciated. Next 5 up are Philly plus West Coast trip. Reasonable to set sights at least 3-2. Holding out hope for 4-1. At Philly, at Portland, must wins, and at least split Sacramento, Golden State. Yeah, really want to win Tuesday night and split that header. And at Portland's a must win. Agreed. Yeah, and then, if you split them, you split Sacramento and Golden State, you get to 3-1 there of the next 4. I mean, it's I think that's reasonable. I do think that's reasonable, and of course it depends on like who's coming and like who's going to be suiting up every night. Like, do you get OG back? Because if you get OG back, then maybe the expectations change a little bit, and you're leaving out there that they're at Nuggets on Thursday night. So Kings, Warriors, Nuggets on the road is an extremely difficult stretch. If they get OG back, you hope to get one of those games and be 3-2. If you win, beat the Sixers, beat the Blazers, get 1 out of 3 against those 3 teams, you can live with that. 3-2. Yeah, that's absolutely reasonable. Thanks, Alex. Gabriel Davis, what's up, Gabes? Sirius Q, missing QG at all tonight. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Quentin Grimes is he was a guy, he's a two-way player. Like, you don't have to choose between offense and defense. He can do both. He can space the floor. Even if he wasn't shooting it great this year, he's a spacer. And like he's accounted for on the perimeter, and we know he can guard. The more guys in the NBA that you can not have to choose between offense and defense, the better you are, especially again when Jalen Brunson's your best player. So he's a choice in his own right. He's worth it, obviously. And he gives it his all on most nights on the defensive end, although tonight maybe not so much. But yeah, you did. You missed QG. You missed QG. I think you've missed QG. I think he was a theoretically important piece. Maybe it wasn't realistic to keep him. Maybe the relationship had soured. Maybe he wanted to move on. Like, again, all of those caveats were like I theoretically and hypothetically understand the trade when we're talking about subjects beyond on-court product right this second. Like, I don't believe that Bogey or Burks, or combined, are more valuable to this basketball team. Neither do I believe it now without our talent, nor do I believe it in the playoffs. That's just my opinion, though. So, yeah, I think we missed QG. Thank you, Gabes. Sean with the dubs. How we doing, Sean? I volunteer to do a post game on KFS. Nice henceforth. You know what, Sean? Next time, hop on with me. We'll have a good time. Hope all's well, my friend. And yeah, he's back. Or maybe Zach with an H. Zach with an H, for those who don't know, is Sean with W's son. Adorable kid. Can't be any worse. No, it can't be any worse. But actually, it could be worse. It could be worse. Because Look who lost tonight. It can always be worse. The Heat lost. The Magic lost. The Cavs lost. So we're, again, treading water until the cavalry comes back. So it can be worse. Also, the Heat lost to the freaking Washington Wizards, who I watched the last 2 minutes of that game. The Wizards made like 13 straight terrible plays trying to hand Miami the game, and Miami couldn't make enough shots to take it. Losing to Washington is worse than scoring 73 points against the shorthanded 76ers, in my opinion. Losing to Washington is worse. So it could be worse. Perspective, it could be worse. And win Tuesday night, and this gets forgotten, I think, real quick. But Sean, next time, jump on with me, would you? Thanks, buddy. Busy says it was not a good game, but great night at the Garden with passionate Knicks fans. Cheers to doing more of these next year. Busy with a great closing remark, I think. Kev, you tell me, but I think that's the closing remark. Also, perspective is like it's about having a good time. So we make fun of the KFS watch parties, but if everyone had a good time over there, spend time together. It's a family, KFS. It's a family, so family time is always important. Family time, like even on Thanksgiving, people are arguing, they're throwing things at each other. In the end of the day, it's still important. Bad things can be going on, but at the end of the day, you spend time with family. So that's what KFS is doing, even if they always lose when KFS is in the building. Thanks, Busy. Hope all's well, man. Is that it, Kev? We got one more? That's it. Terrific. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope we got over an hour. I thought this was going to be like 25 minutes. So I appreciate y'all for hanging out and contributing and asking questions and making this bearable after a game to forget. But so really, thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate it. And thanks, Kev, for all the help. Like this video and subscribe to our channel, please. It helps. And if you are listening on the podcast feed later, please leave a 5-star rating and a positive review, because that also helps us. It helps the family. So again, appreciate all y'all for coming out, for indulging me, for squeezing an hour, 8 minutes out of that game. I think we produced more than the Knicks offense tonight. So thanks all, and we'll speak soon. Peace.